So we're going to be looking at a person-centered approach to health and social care for this unit, so over the next few days. I'm going to take you over the specification sheet just to go over what sort of questions that you'll be asked, and then we'll make a start on LO1. So, for our first learning outcome, we're going to be looking at understand person-centered values within the health and social care sector. And within this, there's 4 different questions. There are 3 past ones, which is 1.1, explain the importance of person-centered. Oh, fantastic. Charity can hear me. Well, very good. So, explain the importance of person-centered values when working in health and social care. 1.2 is describe how person-centered care has developed. And 1.3 is explain the challenges associated with the person-centered approach. And then there are no merit questions, but there is a distinction one. So that would be, it goes on from 1.3. It is recommend ways to overcome challenges associated with the person-centered approach. So that is what we're going to be looking at today. Again, as we had with the health and social care sector unit that we just did previously, there's the same grading system again. You can go pass, merit, or distinction. If you want the pass, all the pass questions need to be answered. For merit, it will be all the pass and all the merit. So that is if you want a merit grade. But if you want to go for a distinction grade, you need to do all of the passes, all of the merits, and all of the distinctions. So I had it previously where some students had done the pass and the distinction, but even though their distinctions were correct, either they had to go back and do the merit questions or they went for the pass mark. So it's important to do all of them if you want the distinction. Just a quick overview on LO2, 3 and 4. LO2 is about understanding equality, diversity and discrimination in relation to person-centered approaches. I'm zooming ahead, there's 3. So LO3 is understand how person-centered care is applied in practice in health and social care settings. And LO4 is about yourselves. So it's be able to review your own person-centered skills. But we'll go over those as we get to those sessions. So for today, we're going to be focusing just on LO1, understand person-centered values within the health and social care sector. So are we okay so far with this?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Let's get on to the slides. There you go. So I've got a little bit of sore throat, so please excuse me if I get a bit croaky. So, a person-centered approach to health and social care, and we're going to look at how to understand person-centered values within HSE. So our aim is to develop an understanding of the importance of the person-centered approach in health and social care and how it's applied in different health and social care settings. So because obviously there's many departments, many places that, hospitals, GPs, so we're just going to see how it's applied in different scenarios. So before we start, I think, Ben, you might be the only one that can actually speak to me. But do you know what do you think person-centered approach means?
What I understand from that is care. The care users, giving the care users the care they need from their own point of view, like what they need, not just you taking care of someone you wanted to, but taking care of them from their own perspective.
Yes. Yeah, you're right along the correct lines along that. Yes, it is true. So we'll go over that in more details. So here it is. So person-centered is about focusing your care on the needs of the person rather than needs of the service. So exactly what you're saying is focused on what that person needs, especially if they have a long-term condition that might need to be catered towards, like asthma or diabetes. So it's to bring them within their own care. So we've got a little scenario here. This is just a couple of pictures about we used an example of a person who wants to quit smoking and how they're actually helped to do that, but that they're actually an equal partner within that process. They're not just getting told you have to do A, B, C. They're having discussions, what will suit you, what will suit us, let's work together. So that is what person-centered care actually means over here. So person-centered care doesn't actually mean that what your patient says is that's it, it goes. It means you have to look at every individual situation and see what will suit them the best and put that into their planning care.
Yeah.
Yep. Right, and then we go into personalization, which is also I can't speak today, it's not good. Relationship-centered care. So I'm going to read a little bit through this because it's important that I get it right. So personalization refers to the process by which people with long-term illnesses or conditions can receive support that is tailored towards them. In 2007, the government actually put out a paper called Putting People First, and it's used to improve adult social care by adopting a personalization agenda. So what they're doing is they've put into place where you're getting a personalized care plan for yourself. So at its core, personalization centers on the notion that support and services should be designed with the involvement of those who require them and should be tailored to their unique needs, because not every diabetes sufferer will have the same needs. Not every asthma sufferer will have the same requirements. So it depends on what suits that particular person the best. So it's a move away from the one-size-fits-all approach, and where people were required to fit into an existing system where they were said that this is what you're going to be doing and this is the care plan that you get. But now, because of personalization, the care is catered towards them instead, which is a fantastic thing, I think. Oh. I seem to have frozen. There you go. So we're going to go on to 1.1 now. Are we okay with what person-centered care and personalization mean so far?
Yeah, from me.
I've not been hearing you at all.
Oh, Arista, I can hear you now.
I've been waiting for you.
Can you hear me now, Arista?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, fantastic. That's good, because you've not actually missed anything so far yet. All we've done is we've talked about what person-centered approach means and what the meaning of personalization is within health and social care. So it's just catering towards the person themselves and not doing a one-size-fits-all approach like happened previously. So you've caught back on at the right time. So are you okay with can you see my screen? Yeah, fantastic. Right, so am I okay to carry on? Yeah, fantastic. So we're going to go into 1.1. So that is explain the importance of person-centered values when working in health and social care. So this is a few slides on 1.1, and there's a lot of the terminology that is used in here will be used to answer your questions when you get your assignment. So I'll point those out once we get to them. So person-centered care is about providing care and support that is centered or focused on the individual and their needs. And we're all individual, And just because two people might have the same condition, like it says dementia here, it doesn't mean that they require the same care and support. Because one person may have a lot more support from their family, another person might not have that much, and it depends on how we can, fill in that support for them, medicinal-wise and also care-wise. So to work in a person-centered way, you have to develop a clear understanding about individuals that you're supporting. And this includes needs like their cultures, their communications, have they got a good command of English? Do they have a different first language? Their likes and dislikes, their family and other professional involvement. So you can promote and provide person-centered care and support. So you need to be able to understand what their own situations are so that a care plan can be involved for them. So there are 8 person-centered values that support person-centered care and support. And these are: so the first one is independence. Yeah. So this allows individuals you support to do things for themselves, even if it's a small thing, like even making a cup of tea. So being independent does not necessarily mean being completely alone, but you're supporting them to do little things for themselves. So you're taking time to enable the individuals you support to be independent, and you don't do things for them just because it's quicker. You support them to do things that they can do or almost can do. The reason for this is that if we're supporting our patients to be as independent as possible, it makes them feel confident, they're in control of their lives, and they feel like they have a sense of worth, that they can actually do a lot more than, they're not just completely invalid in that sense. So are we okay on independence? So these points that we're going over now, they will be, this is the type of terminology that I will want you to include within your question, but on assignment brief day, we'll go over this again. So individuality, again, you shouldn't make assumptions about the individual, and they should never have to fit in with you or your employer. So individuals should be allowed and supported to make their own choices, and care and support needs should be tailored to suit each individual. This shows respect by preserving their dignity and individuality, and also their personal beliefs are respected when you're giving them individuality. So privacy, every individual should have time and spaces to do things in private if they wish to do so, such as talking to family, friends, phone calls, going to the bathroom, showering. Even if they do need help, then having them in a private, enclosed space with just the carer and the person themselves. So you're not on view to everyone. Partnership. So working in partnership with other professionals, with colleagues and families is an essential part of providing care and support. It's person-centered care support is about a whole range of people working together to improve the lives of these individuals. So you might be working with a co-worker, you might be liaising with a family member like a husband or wife or a child, but you're working together to improve your patient's care. And partnership is all about the individual you are supporting, and all of the partners involved will need good communication, sharing appropriate information, and put the individual's best interests at the center of everything. So when it says sharing appropriate information, as healthcare professionals, you already know that. You just share what they need to know. You don't need to give them every ABCs of everything at that point. Got a few more to go through. So choice is another one. So each individual you are supporting should be allowed and supported to make choices. They should be given enough information to make informed choices themselves, and they should also have acknowledge the benefit of their choices. So you shouldn't ever take over because you can do things faster or you prefer things to be done in a particular way. You need to let them try and lead that particular point. Sometimes people can be overwhelmed with choice and may respond better if you just give them 2 or 3 simple choices. But this is better than not giving them a choice at all. For example, if there's an elderly person in your care and you know that they might get overwhelmed from seeing a full wardrobe of clothes, you might get out 2 different outfits and say, would you like to wear this one or would you like to wear this one? So they're still getting their own individuality and their own choice, but you're supporting them in to make things a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So dignity, this is quite an important one, I feel. So dignity is what we feel when we are respected, and it's what makes us feel important in society, in our lives. So whether someone is eating, sleeping, washing, shopping, if they're if they're passing away, then it's up to the support workers to help them feel dignified. So we've got to be aware of the importance of preserving an individual's dignity. Ask them how they wish to be addressed. Some people might say, I want to be called Sophie, if that's the person's name, or they might say, I want to be called Mrs. Baxton. You know, it depends on what their choice is. They might want you to be formal with them or informal, so you need to ask them. So don't rush people. Take your time to listen. And if you're helping them do personal care, just the basic simple things that you're already aware of, use a towel or a piece of cloth to cover them up when you're helping them get dressed. And also, it's very important that you don't stereotype or make assumptions about individuals and their needs. I know it's something that we're all guilty of. I've made assumptions before when I've worked with colleagues or seen people, but mostly assumptions can be wrong. So just try and get to know. So on to respect. So this is the last point for 1.1. So respect is showing an individual you will support them in what they believe is important, whatever their age, culture, disability, gender or beliefs or even sexual orientation. So when working with other professionals, don't ignore the individual you're supporting. Include them in conversations, no matter if they might understand it or not. Because if you're standing with a colleague and your patient's in the same room, it's extremely rude if you're just ignoring that patient. You should try and even getting them slightly involved. So never use the term of endearment, like calling an individual love or dear without asking them. I'm quite bad at this. I always go honey and darling, but obviously you need to make sure that they want to be called out, so you're being respectful of their needs. So some people don't like terms of endearment and others will just think it's part of their everyday language. So either way, never assume and just make sure you check before you start saying. You could say, oh, I like calling people honey. Is that okay if I call you that? And then they can say yes or no. Yeah, are we okay?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So that was 1.1. We're going to go on to 1.2. How are we feeling about the terminology on this? I'm presuming that it's something that you're all very familiar with the backgrounds that you're in at the moment.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Right, let's go on to 1.2. Oh dear, there's another one. Silly me. Right, rights. How did I forget that? Each individual you support has the right to say no, and they have the right to have a relationship and the right to have a say in how they are supported. So they can choose what they eat, how they dress, and when they do things. They can choose to meet their friends and what they want to do with their times, and you might need to make changes to take this into account. You may have to balance their rights against your responsibilities and also see if there are risks or not. So if you're concerned or unsure, check with your seniors on this. Now we're going to go into 1.2. So 1.2 is describe how person-centered care has developed. Now this is a little bit of history involved here. So I'm giving you the right details. I'm going to read through it. Please bear with me. So when we go on to 1.2, this is the gist of what you will need to be including to answer that question. So pay attention to this. It's what you'll need. So in the early 1960s, a psychologist called Carl Rogers was the first person to term something called person-centered. And this was in relation to psychotherapy, and he had used something called client-centered terminology from the 1950s, but in the 1960s it was changed to person-centered. So although different in many ways from today's meaning of person-centered care, a key element that both approaches share is empathy and the professional's willingness to suspend judgment and appreciate the service user's perspective. So obviously we're all aware that the service user is our patient. Yeah. So Rogers termed this unconditional positive regard. So this is what he called this system in the 1960s. So this developed in the 1970s. Another psychiatrist called George Engel promoted the move from a medical to a biopsychosocial model of health, a model that is now commonly used to explain the shift required to deliver person-centered care. So it developed from Carl Rogers in the 60s to George Engel in the 70s. So these ideas began to become aligned with healthcare in the 1990s in the US, when the chronic care model was developed to address perceived deficiencies in how people with long-term conditions were supported. Yep. So this goes on to 2001, where the highly influential Institute of Medicine included patient-centeredness. So as you see, this is where we're coming to patient-centered care now as one of its 6 aims of health care quality. So over the following decade, the ideas of person-centeredness began appearing with increasing regularity in the UK health policy. So the 2000 NHS plan highlighted the need for personalisation and coordination. 2002, the One List report focused on enablement and empowerment. And then in 2008, there was someone called Lord Darcy, and he created a report on high quality care for all. And it described changing public expectations of services, including the importance of being involved with decisions about their care. So at the moment, even though patient-centered care is quite new for us in England, it's not been around for that long. So you might notice that not a lot of patients are actually aware that they have a choice within their own care. So it's something that we're trying to promote within that. So the following year, so 2009, the first NHS constitution in England set out what people could expect the NHS to deliver. So they pulled all together all of the policy statements into a framework. So it stated that NHS services must reflect the needs and preferences of patients, their families, the carers. Patients with their families and carers, where appropriate, will be involved in and consulted on all decisions about their care and treatment, and this has further been strengthened in subsequent years. And the last section of this now. Are we all okay so far? I know it's quite a lot of wording and history. Are we all okay so far?
Yeah, for me.
Fantastic. That's good. So in 2010, the Francis inquiries into the failings in the care at Mid Staffordshire NHS Foundation Trust between 2005 and 2009 have propelled person-centered care back into the spotlight. So they focus on dignity, compassion and respect. So in 2013, the Berwick Advisory Group argued for greater involvement of patients and their carers at every level of the health service in order to deliver a safe, meaningful and appropriate healthcare. And today, person-centred care is also central to the policies of the 4 UK countries. The Health and Social Care Act 2012 imposes a legal duty for NHS England and clinical commissioning groups, which are CCGs, to involve patient in their care. Vision 2020 for Scotland has a focus on supported self-management, and Northern Ireland's 2020 quality strategy cites patient and client focus as one of its 3 main areas of focus. So while the Welsh White Paper, the listening organisation, focuses exclusively on ensuring care is person-centred in NHS Wales. So for 1.2, because the question was to explain how person-centred care has developed, the 3-4 slides that we've just been over, going over the history of it, is what you will need to pick up to answer that question. So in here, pick up points and include that in, and that will cover 1.2. So is everyone okay with 1.1 and 1.2 so far?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, good. That's very good. So we're going to go on to 1.3, which is explain challenges associated with the person-centred approach. So with yourselves, as you work, I'm presuming that you work with patients or you're involved with patient care. Have you ever come across any challenges that you can think of yourself that you can show that are to do with person-centred approach?
Yeah, for me, it was communication.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a patient in our ward don't speak English. So I and the nurse, and normally in our ward, they are a doctor,
Mm-hmm.
nurse, a support worker. So there was one of the patients, she don't understand English.
Yeah.
There was no interpreter. So anytime she's using her hand, it was difficult for me to really take care of her. It was really challenging for me until I have to call for an interpreter to come. So when the interpreter came, so my work was easy for me to do there.
Yeah, but it's difficult waiting for somebody else so you can I know exactly what you mean. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. So communication is a very barrier. So in your case, it was a language barrier, but in some other cases, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then in other cases, it might be communication, like a patient has a hearing aid, or they might use British Sign Language. So just even trying to help, because it can get frustrating trying to help them and trying to give them the care that they need. But if you're not understanding what's going on and they're not understanding you, it can be a no-win situation.
Yeah, because it was not recorded. I wish it was recorded on the care. I would have seen it. So because the communication was not there.
Yeah, and then there's another point that you picked up, communication within staff members themselves, where treatment isn't getting recorded down on the charts, so you're not aware of what has been done. So that's another barrier that, yeah, definitely. So these are points that you will want to pick up and put into 1.3. So these are a few slides on this again. So explaining the challenges. So we need to improve access, communication and collaboration. So those are the 3 within what you've just told me now. Those are the 3 points that we've just talked about. So tackling staff / service-centered attitudes. So because when you're working in a place for a long time, you get used to this is how we work, this is how things are done. But then patient-centered approaches get kicked out of the way. So it's very difficult adopting change. We also need to tackle staff / service-centered systems and processes of care. Jotting things down onto charts or on computer systems, that can take a lot of time. So it's time consuming, obviously, for somebody who might already be very short-staffed. So So trying time to do these things that need to be done can be a big issue. So create the culture is what needs to be done. Individualize care. Unlock the patient and family resource, and we'll go on to these next. So the importance of professional identity. So clinical practice is driven by a desire to do good. The successes, of clinical intervention underpin a belief in the ability of science and medicine to cure illness and disease. However, we may want to reflect on what do good means as society changes, because as modern clinical practice provides multiple ways to address the clinical issues, it creates clinical issues that can't be addressed. So as a growing proportion of the population live with one or more long-term condition, like we mentioned, some will have dementia, others will have diabetes or asthma or even things to do with blood pressure. So trying to cater for all these different individuals with the different needs can be very time consuming, trying to do something personalized for each person. So professional bodies and others can lead their members into redefining it. So perhaps as a duty to support patients to achieve their decisions and the goal that is right for them. They can perhaps expand trainees' early exposure to understand what good means for patients, and also perhaps with greater use of patients as teachers. So the importance of practical training. So one of the most common barriers in practice was a lack of recognition of the need to change. So like we mentioned earlier, we already do this. Why do we have to change our own systems? We're comfortable with the way that we do things, but then it's not going into person-centered care, is it? So change can be difficult. So we can already do this, has been found to be a common refrain among healthcare professionals attending training courses and puzzled when challenged that they do not practice person-centered care. So what this means is that when professionals have gone into training sessions, they're already saying, why are we here? We already know how to do these particular things. But when they're challenged about having person-centered care, it goes on from there. So the program examined in research demonstrates the importance of practical training in helping clinicians recognize that they had not been sharing decision-making or supporting self-management after all, and how they become receptive to how they can do it. Even if I think back going to a GP and if I have a cold or if I'm not feeling under the weather, I'm very used to my doctor just writing out what I need and just mutely just taking it. But in person-centered care, it would be that you would get a discussion of, maybe I need to give you antibiotics, or maybe we can work through for a couple of days, see how you feel afterwards. So it's just become normal, hasn't it, that you just blindly accept what you're told. So the importance of training teams. So again, on the training again. So the research highlights the importance of training teams, not individuals. This means everyone will speak the same language, have the same understanding, and be motivated towards sharing the same goals. It provides the support infrastructure that enables learning to be translated into practice. And this also indicates a need for significant acceleration in multi or interprofessional training and team training, so to become a normal part of development. So what this section over here means is that instead of having the odd person within your team going for a training session, the whole team should be trained together so that they all understand that these are the changes that we're doing, this is the route that we're going towards, and this is our goal. So you're not having one person saying, oh, yeah, we know how to do this, but another is saying, oh, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. So another part of 1.3, so the importance of starting with clinical leaders. Remember, this is the challenges that we're talking about. So the hidden curriculum is a powerful force within the NHS. It's not enough to change education and training. Teachers and trainees who role model behaviour in practice first will have an impact on both current practice and the training of next generation. So it might be necessary in the short term, at least, to use the trainer programs to rapidly expand the number of people able to train their peers. So what's being talked about on this slide is that the people that are training new clinicians to join the departments or that are coming straight out of education, they're the ones that are going to have the greatest impact on how their students, who are the clinicians, are actually working. So if they've been trained with the newer processes, then they can actually pass it on. So they're the best people to train first, hence train the trainer programs. So once they've been trained to do these systems, then they've passed it on. They've got a bigger audience. So they have a lot more people that they will actually impact. And lastly, the importance of new roles. So you're developing both the capacity and the capability of new roles, such as peer workers, health coaches, and care navigators who work within and alongside traditional services. This highlights the demands of carving out a new training pool from within existing resources, and it leads us back to fruitful partnerships with voluntary and community sector. So on here, we've talked about excessively about the challenges that can happen with a person-centered approach over these last few slides. Has everybody been okay on this section so far? Ben, Arisa, Charity, can you still hear me?
Yeah, for me, I'm okay.
Fantastic. Okay, fantastic. So we're just going on to the last section, which is 1D1. It works. So this actually follows on. First, in 1.3, you've talked about the challenges that are associated with person-centered approach. And if you see on here, it says recommend. Okay, that's good, Charity. As long as you can hear me, that's fantastic. So this, we're going on to recommend ways to overcome challenges associated with person-centered approach. So 1.3, you would have picked up on time issues, collaboration, physical and language barriers, you know, just those type of things that we've just gone over. And then here you will talk about how you're actually going to overcome those challenges. So they sort of join on from one another. So on this, so recommending ways to overcome challenges, we can look at a holistic and joined up approach to change. So person-centered care requires a holistic approach to secure change locally, supported by national enablers in the following 3 areas. Before I go on, is everybody okay with the term holistic?
I wanted to ask you to expatiate on it.
Yeah, holistic actually means an overall approach. It means an approach from everywhere. So holistic is taking into consideration every single thing in that person's environment, their family life, their care life, their work life. So you're doing everything, if you understand what I'm saying, is included within that. I'll see if I can get a better terminology to explain that. So it means that everything needs, like I've just said, everything needs to be considered before you can make a plan for that patient. So like I said, family, work, health-wise, so you're looking at every single area of that person's life to make sure it's a holistic approach. Yeah?
Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. So the 3 areas are supporting individuals to understand, appraise, and apply health information, to be knowledgeable, skilled, and confident in managing their health, and to be motivated to become active partners in their health and care. Second part is supporting healthcare professionals to recognize the need and to develop necessary confidence, skills, and knowledge, and to take on new roles and work in partnership with patients. And the third is building alignment nationally and locally of measurement processes, financial flows, guidance, and regulation to support and encourage these new roles and relationships. So on here we've got a little bit of a table which shows shared decision making and self-management support. So you go over the roles and benefits. There's a section that says current practice and then person-centered care. So current practice is patients are passive. They believe the clinician has all the answers and it will improve their health. But in person-centered care, it shows that people are active partners and they're managers of their own health. For current practice, it shows clinical experts give advice, fixes, cares for, and promotes dependency. But for PCC, person-centered care, it shows clinician cares about, listens, and uses expertise to support and enable patients as a partner in decision-making and management of their health and care. So it just shows the two different settings, the two different beliefs on this little section. So if you wanted to go to answer the distinction question for Learning Outcome 1, you could also include things like different departments could share resources, so money is getting saved, time-wise is getting saved, so you're not having two different people from different departments going to check about the same issue that the patient might have. If you're working together, you can liaise together and have a lot of time and money saved in that aspect. And then also the points that we've gone over here. This is a very good chart to show that how you can overcome issues with the person-centered care. And then to the end. So have we been okay with this so far? I know I've been speaking a lot, like usual.
Yeah. Yes.
Fantastic. Now, I want to go back onto, I can remember how to do it. I'm not 100% today. Let me just move this out of the way. Right. Like again, at the bottom of our specification sheet, I think, Arisa, you might have missed this because you had issues at the beginning. I just went over the spec sheet of what we're learning today and what we will be learning over the next few days. Towards the bottom on here is something called indicative content. Now this section here, where it says terminology and importance of person-centered values, answers 1.1. So from here to here, yeah? So that shows you the points that you should include to answer 1.1. From here to here, development of person-centered care, that is 1.2. So like we went over the history, so you need to include something about how it's developed. And then the challenges is 1.3 over here. So it gives you some ideas like challenges of respecting individual choice when other options might be more appropriate, effective communication, experience of staff and training, and so on. And then for 1D1 recommendations is in this PowerPoint that we just done. Now, there is a little bit of homework I'd like you to do. It will help you answer what we've done. On here, we've got something called, on Moodle, I know you've all got access, in person-centered approach section. If you go into 1.1, we've got person-centered values in practice. Please go into the one that's got the word. No, it's kicked me out. Hold on. Just go into the one that's got the word, the W next to it, because that's a document that you can actually write on. Yep, it's opening my file now. Sorry, it's just being awkward. It'll just be a moment. So we go into person-centered approach, which is the first one. And then it's not going to take you very much time. So here, 1.1, person-centered values. So it's just downloading it for me. There is another one here, which says person-centered values in practice. That's the same document, it's just a PowerPoint, like a PDF, so you can't write on that one. There you go, finally, it's coming up. So on here, if you remember on the slides that we've just done, which is here, this goes over for 1.1. We went over points like independence, individuality, partnership. So we've got here person-centered values in practice. I'd like you to answer what these values mean. So values, individuality, what does this mean in practice? Rights, so tell me what this means in practice. And then it's just a few, it's not that many. And then that's what it's all: equal opportunities, partnership, respect, dignity, independence, privacy, choice, rights, and individuality. So if you could answer what these mean and email them to me before Monday session, do you think that would be fine?
Yeah, for me.
Yeah, it'll only be a couple of sentences. I don't want something really, really big. Just a couple of sentences saying what individuality means, what right means. So get those done if you can, and then this will actually help you answer. It will work towards your answer on 1.1, so you can actually cut and paste this into your assignment later on once we talk about it in the brief on next Wednesday. That's fantastic. I'm going to turn the recording off and then